Wow, no one is even going to speak for the group. I thought maybe there'd be like a lot of like loud randomness and I wouldn't be able to make what it was, but not at all. Oh, kids, you're dismissed. Ushers, you can come on forward. If I just look up every now and then, I'd see them standing there going like, hey, don't forget about us. So when you come forward, you can go ahead and turn and receive. Yeah, go ahead, turn and receive. We're not taking it from you, right? We're receiving it. You're giving it freely and willingly and cheerfully. We don't count it in the back afterwards. We do count it eventually. We don't count it in the back afterwards and be like, well, that wasn't enough. Now we're going to take it. Like, that's not what we're going to do. We're receiving what you give cheerfully and joyfully. We're grateful for the work that you, for the way that you sacrifice in so many different ways to BNC. And financial is just another way that we sacrifice and a way that we worship. So Ron wants me to move ahead, so I'm going to go ahead and move ahead. Anyway, I'm going to try it again. Good morning. All right, it is great to see all of you. Thank you for being here for week 2 of this Sleepless in Birdsboro series we started last week. And what we're doing in this series is we're kind of looking at the things that keep us up at night, right? Not like the bump in the night, like did you hear that noise, outside kind of stuff, but the kind of stuff that kind of keeps our minds racing when we lay down. When we carry like the guilt or worriness or busyness or distractions or just the questions of life that kind of keep us from this much needed sleep. That's what we're really talking about the 4 weeks of this series as we get into Advent coming up in just a couple of weeks. So last week we talked about how we can become so busy that we can't really rest. Like we don't really get the sleep that God intends for us, not the kind of sleep that God modeled for us. And the answer to that, the way that we get the rest that God has for us is we take Jesus up on his invitation when he says, come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest, right? And it doesn't look like what the world thinks. It's not an escape from something else. It's a resting in the presence of God. And then next week, we're going to talk about how we drown out the noise around us, because there's a lot of noise around us. How many of you sleep with a noise machine or a noisemaker in your room? Right. And so some of you need that noise to sleep, but a lot of times we can't sleep because of all of the other noise, what we hear on the news and just the busyness of life, whatever else going on around us. And so how do we tune all of that out? And how do we listen to God's voice in the midst of all of that? In a culture that is just too cluttered, in a world that is just too loud around us, how do we tune it all out and then listen to God? And then on November 23rd, we're going to be having a memorial roll celebration for Ruth Schaefer. And her entire family will be here. All of the entire family will be here. So we hope that you will be here as well to kind of have a few moments of service to celebrate her and her contribution to Birdsboro Nazarene and her involvement at Birdsboro Nazarene over the years. And I'm not going to get into any of that right now because I don't want to steal any thunder from that day. But some we're going to lean in is kind of talking about how God calls us to fulfill his mission. How we're not called to kind of live for ourselves. We're called to live for him. And ultimately, when we do that, it leads to an eternal rest, but it also leads to a fulfilled and restful life like right here and now, in the stuff that we do day in and out. And so I hope you'll be here for that. We're going to have a small kind of fellowship and refreshments afterwards, but it'll be a great time to see the extended family and celebrate Ruth. So put it on your calendars, November 23rd. You shouldn't have to put Sunday morning on your calendars. You should be here anyway, but just put a little star on that one because you're going to make sure you're here for something different that day. So that means today, the second week of this series, we want to talk about what else keeps us up at night. You know, the times when you're lying in bed, when your mind is racing and you just can't, and it just won't shut off, right? If you're like 75% of Americans, you're worried about something. Something is running through your heads that you're worried about, you're concerned about. And all it takes is kind of turning on the news, and then you will see war, you will hear about political unrest, you will hear about economic uncertainty, or maybe for you it's a little closer to home, there is an aging parent, you're waiting on getting a test result back from the doctor, there's a job that you're afraid you're going to lose, or a job that you're not going to find, or there's bills that just keep coming, and then just keep coming, and then just keep coming, and then just keep coming, or maybe it's kids that you can't stop thinking about, or maybe it's a future that you can't predict. Whatever it is, if none of those were your things, maybe it's your thing now, and I apologize for that. But there is something that keeps us up at night, 75% of us, that we worry about. And here's the thing, we all know that we're not supposed to worry. We've heard it over and over before, time and time again, worry, you're not supposed to worry. We might even kind of know that it doesn't do any good. Me worrying doesn't change the situation in any way, shape, or form. It's not like if I worry for 7 hours, then all of a sudden the problem is gone. There's no equation that goes worry, problem gone. That's not how any of it works. But somehow it just feels like it's impossible not to worry. That's the way we live our lives. It's impossible not to worry. But what worry does is it kind of strangles the rest of life out of us, right? Because then you lay awake all night worried about something, and then what do you make when the next morning you get up and then your alarm or your watch or whatever tells you didn't sleep very well. My watch told me that I needed to get 2 extra hours of sleep or something because I didn't sleep well, and I slept like 9.5 hours, which is more than I sleep probably any 2 or 3 days during the week. But anyway, whatever it's trying to tell you to do. But when you sit up all night, worry you wake up the next morning, and then you're exhausted, and you're tired, and you're probably a little irritable and whatever else. And so then it affects the rest of the day, which kind of then moves on, affects the evening, right? And so it just kind of goes on. And so worry strangles the life out of us, but we feel like it's something that we have to do. There's always something to stress about. There's always something that kind of keeps our minds going long after our heads hit the pillows. And we have all probably been held hostage to it, 75%, right? But it's probably even more than that, even if you're a Christian. Now, here's what we do as Christians. We don't worry about things because we know you're not supposed to do that. So we've kind of sanctified it a little bit. You know, we feel like God's given us permission if we change what it is. And so we don't worry about stuff. I'm concerned about that. Right? And we might even kind of take it a step farther and say, well, I'm going to pray about that. But we're not. We're not praying about it. We're worrying about it. We're just calling it prayer. It's still worry. We've just kind of repackaged it so that it looks prettier. But the wrapping doesn't change what it is. Worry is absolutely a tool of the enemy, one that slowly teaches us to trust our fears and eventually ourselves to solve the problem more than we trust our God. And that's really what worry is. It's distrusting the promises and the power of God. And anytime we don't listen to the things that God says, the things that he tells us to do, there's a 3-letter word for that, and it's sin. Like we don't want to lean into that and go, well, I'm being sinful if I worry, but there's an aspect of it that I think is. We're not doing what it is that God has asked us to do. Anytime we don't do what God has asked us to do, then that's a sin. And worry is the opposite of faith. It is not believing in the goodness of God. It's believing instead in the worst possible outcome. Even if you're trying to just be concerned and prepare. It's worried about the worst possible outcome. But worry is not completely useless. I want you to hear this whole section right here, right? Worry is not completely useless. For right now at 10:29, if you're watching and listening at 10:29, 10:31, whatever it happens to be, that clock is a little bit slow. That's unfortunate for you, y'all. Someone should not have set that clock a few minutes behind. But anyway, so it's only good for right now. This is the only time that I want you to think about what you're worrying about. What I want you to do is I want you to think for a moment about what you most often worry about. Now, I don't want to hear what it is. Don't holler it out. You kind of keep it in your mind. I want you to think about what it is that you most often worry about. Does everybody got it? Okay, let's a little better participation than that, right? Are you telling me that none of y'all worry? Because if none of y'all worry, I guess we can just wrap it up right now.
We don't worry.
You don't worry. I worry. Okay, then I worry about all of you then. She lies too. Yes, she does, right? So we have this worry. Everybody's going to got this worry. But here's what I want you to tell you about whatever that worry is. Whatever that thing is, whatever it is that you're most worried about, whatever causes you to lose sleep, it's likely pointing to an area of your life where you trust God the least. Because it's the thing where you say, like, if God's not handling it the way that he's supposed to handle it, not the way that I need it to be handled, and so I have to take it back. I have to handle it. I got to deal with it if something's ever going to be done with it. And so worry really reveals where we struggle in trusting God. But the good news is, now that you've identified it, then you know exactly what it is that you need to give up. You know exactly what it is you need to kind of put in his hands and say, I'm not going to do this any longer. And this is why I think Psalm 121 speaks to us so deeply about this. Psalm 121 is one of the 14 Psalms of Ascent. It's 8 verses. We're going to work through every bit of it, right? So it's only 8 verses. But it's one of the 14 Psalms of Ascent, and they kind of serve as this road trip playlist. Like if you go on a road trip, you have a playlist, right? You know what that is, right? You have playlists. Madeline and Atlanta, they have playlists that they listen to when they come back. And then I think the playlists are different depending upon if they're in the car together or if they're with one of us. And even if they're with Melanie or they're with me, the road trip playlist is very, very different each time. But it's the kind of music you listen to when you're traveling, when you're going from one place to the next. And that's kind of what this Psalms of Ascent, these 14 Psalms of Ascent kind of really are. They would listen to this, they would kind of recite these, they would kind of sing these or chant these over and over again as they're kind of walking to and from Jerusalem. They would do it along the journey to kind of keep their hearts steady when the road before them was uncertain. We're going to focus and listen to and be obedient to and center around who God is when everything else is crazy. When the danger is real, when it's real likelihood for it to be taken over by the worry and the stress and whatever else in front of us, we're going to sing these songs over and over again. And there's a good chance they would get to this psalm as they saw the hills of Jerusalem coming up into the distance, when they kind of first rounded a corner, a hill, or whatever it is. But here's what I want to say. Like, we might not be climbing hills to Jerusalem, But every single one of us is traveling the roads of life. Every single one of us, when we look out in front of us, our roads are filled with uncertainty and fear, right? You didn't want to tell me you were worried, and it's fine, but there's uncertainty and fear in your life, right? I'm sure some of this is hitting. There's uncertainty and there's fear in life. And so this is what that psalm is about, to kind of address these worries that we have. And here's where it starts, Psalm 121, verse 1. It says, I lift up my eyes to the hills, from where does my help come? Lift up my eyes to the hills, from where does my help come? The psalm begins with a statement and a question. The traveler says, I lift my eyes to the hills, and then immediately wonders, where does my help come from? As these pilgrims made their way towards Jerusalem, they couldn't help but see the hills in the distance. You could not get to the city of Jerusalem without kind of going through these hills on the way there. And those hills are like most hills. They're beautiful, and they're intimidating, and they're majestic, but they're also filled with unimaginable dangers. Just if you were going to go walk somewhere right now. There's all kinds of things that live on the countrysides and along trails and whatever else. Thieves hid among the rocks. That's where Jesus gets his story of the Good Samaritan, right? Thieves hid among the rocks. Wild animals roamed the slopes. And as they're making their journeys, families would be forced to kind of camp out alongside of those trails, exposing themselves and vulnerable to whatever came along. And so when you have that image in your mind, when you kind of picture what's really going on in their lives when they're traveling with all of their important stuff and their family and their loved ones and they're traveling towards Jerusalem, you can kind of imagine them kind of stopping, looking ahead, seeing the dangers of the hills, what lies up there, and then going, how am I going to make it through this? That's a very real fear for them. And it's a very real fear for us. We ask that exact same question. That exact same question is what keeps us up at night. How am I going to get through what's coming at me right now? God, how am I going to get through what I'm about to walk through? What if the results come back and they're not what I hoped for? What if the results come back and they're not what I prayed for? What if the job that I have falls through? What if the relationship that I'm a part of doesn't heal and it doesn't get any better? We lie awake rehearsing every what if, just like the pilgrim staring at the hills, wondering in the distance, staring at the hills in the distance, kind of wondering, what if the thieves are there today? What if the animal is out there and it comes after me? So they're worried as they look ahead. The what ifs, what could possibly happen when they look to the hills. But there's another layer that's kind of going on when he says this, I lift up my eyes to the hills, where does my help come from? In the history of Israel, the high places weren't just dangerous, these mountaintops, they weren't just dangerous, they were spiritually crowded. The hills were dotted all along the lines and the trails with shrines to false gods and idols that people had built hoping to find protection and help or peace along their journeys. And so when the psalmist says, I lift my eyes to the hills, there's a deeper question. He's going, which God am I going to look to save me as I walk through what I'm about to walk through? And that's the same choice that we have today. And I don't immediately go like, well, he's just wrong about me. I'm a Christian. Let's resist the urge to kind of recoil at that. Because yes, we're Christians. Yes, we might even be really good Nazarenes. And if I were to ask you, do you have other gods? Do you bow down before statues? You would absolutely say, no, I don't do any of that. And I would go, you're probably right. I don't think you have a shrine in your house and you've got something on it you bow down to and you talk to every night, right? But I think we do have high places. We do have things that we run to when we're scared. We do have things that make us feel comfortable when life is uncomfortable. Whether it's shopping, it's food addiction, it's overworking, it's over-medicating, it's scrolling, it's anything mind-numbing that we can get into and escape from whatever's in front of us, just for even if it's just a short amount of time. We all have something that we lean to that promises a little bit of comfort or a little bit of control, or it just allows us to kind of escape the situation altogether for a little while. But in the end, every single one of those are what they are. They're false gods, and they're always going to leave you wanting. We didn't build a little shrine, but we have it and we scroll through it or whatever else. We absolutely have these things in our lives. And so we agree with 100% of what the traveler is saying, who sees the fear, he feels the fear, he sees the danger, and he asks the question, where does my help come from? And we read this, I look to the hills, my eyes to the hills, where does my help come? We read this as if it's a very quick kind of question and answer segment. We move very quickly to verse 2, but we have to linger in that moment for a bit, because this is a moment of fear. This is a moment of desperation from them. I look to the hills, where on earth am I going to find help? What on earth is going to get me through what's about coming my way? And so amidst fear and amidst desperation, just like you are, it is also a moment of decision. This is where he comes in verse 2. He says, my help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. The traveler who says, where does my help come from, answers the question, my help comes from the Lord. It's as if his eyes are lingering on the mountains, and as he's looking at the mountains, as he's recognizing the majesticness, the dangers that are there, the false gods that are there, as he sees all of that, something kind of hits him. He realizes, he remembers that, hey, those hills didn't appear on their own. It wasn't some tectonic thing that pushed them together that I can have faith in that pulled them together. There was a God who created them. They only exist. All of this stuff only exists because God made it. And so then the same hills that look threatening now remind him of the Creator. Now remind him of something greater. Those peaks and the permanence and the power that they have only reminds him of the one who spoke them into existence. They're still there, they're still daunting, they're still big, but now I see the one who made them. It is a very subtle shift. It's taking your eyes from here to here. We don't even notice it, looking from here to here. It's a subtle shift, but he's not looking at the hills anymore, he's looking beyond them. He's looking above them. He's looking deeper than they are. He's looking above the danger, above the idols, above the uncertainty, and he fixes his eyes on the Maker who made the hills that are so daunting and looming in front of him. And that's the same choice that we face every day when we start to worry, when worry starts to close in as our lives. Are we going to look at the hills? Are we going to look at the danger? Or are we going to look at the one who made them? Are we going to look at the one who's above all things? If you only look at the hills, you're going to end up staring at something that either saves you or that either scares you or can't save you. That's what we look at when we look at the hills. Scares us or can't save us. You'll see the obstacles, you'll see the unknowns, you'll see the threats, and your mind will wander to the darkest places. That's why we stay up at night. And then we reach for the false gods, we reach for the quick comforts, the things that promise peace, but in the end we're worse off than we were before. But when you choose to look higher, when you choose to lift your gaze just a bit, you look above the hills, you start to see the one who is bigger than the thing that's bigger than you. And when you can see that, that's when your life begins to change. For sure, I don't want to diminish what you're going through. I don't want to diminish what any of us are going through, because what we're going through is very real. What we're going through is bigger than we are. If we could do something about it, we wouldn't be worried about it. So it's big, it's daunting. It's something we don't know what we're going to do. The diagnosis, the divorce, the debt, the distress, any of those things, they're real, they're heavy, they're in front of us, and we know they're coming, and then we know that there's only so much we can do about it. So we do what we can, because there are things you can do, and then we trust God to handle what we can't. Because what we can do is this, and what he can do is all of the rest. So we do what we can. We don't live irresponsibly. We do what we can, but then we trust God to do the rest, to handle what it is that he can. So that's what the psalmist is saying here. He's saying, I'm not going to look to the thing that scares me. I am certainly not going to look to the thing and settle for something that can't save me. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. That's what the psalmist says. And then I want you to look at what happens when this is the mindset that we choose to have. When this is the outlook that we choose to have on life, right? I want to make sure you got that right. Choose to have on life. Everybody heard that? Give me a little bit of a nod. Right. Choose to have on life, because this is a choice we make day in and day out. The mountains that once seemed overwhelming now serve as reminders of God's power and presence. So to put it very simply, the very things that cause us to worry can also cause us to worship. You will do one or the other with everything that's in front of you. You will either worry about it or you will worship over it. It's the same situation. It's the same setting. It's the same problem. It's the same issue. But am I going to worry about it or am I going to worship about it? It is entirely different what you choose to do. Did I say you choose to do that? Right, you got that, right? We choose to worry. You might think, I didn't choose to worry. I can't help it. No, you chose to worry when you chose instead to not worship, right? I can move on. Everybody's got it, right? I'm going to move on. If you don't have it, I'll move on. All right. The difficulties of life were always meant to drive us back towards God. The hard moments of life, the trials, the temptations, read through the prophets. The difficulties of life were always meant to drive us back towards God, never away from him. It's the deceiver. It's the liar. It's Satan. It's the accuser that has taken the pains of life and then uses them for his advantage. He uses them to drive a wedge between us and the God who loves us. But it is never the way that God intended. Verse 3, it says this, He will not allow your foot to slip. Your protector will not slumber. Behold, the protector of Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. And as we get into verse 3, there's another little shift that happens, right? I lift my eyes to the hills. My help comes from, right? But here in verse 3, we get this shift. And he's no longer talking about this first person singular, I think. He's second person now. If I'm grammatically incorrect, you can let me know, but I don't know. But I think that's what it is, right? The language changed from I and my to you and your. And that's important. That's significant. Because it's as if others have gathered around this individual who's talking and singing this song and writing this down, whatever else. It's going, hey, I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? And as he begins to speak, people come around them. Maybe friends, family, fellow travelers, whatever it is. And now he turns from kind of reflecting on his own story to kind of encouraging theirs. I've been through this numerous times. I lift my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? Comes from the Maker. And you know what? You can do the same thing as well. He has gotten me through every time I've come up this mountain, and he will get you through every time you come up this mountain as well. Right? That's what he's saying. That's why the shift is there. He's reflecting on his own story, and now he's encouraging theirs. He's been through the dark valleys. He's climbed all the little steep climbs. He's worried about all the animals and the thieves and whatever else, and he knows every time God has brought him through. There's no way that something weird or something off or something bad didn't happen at any of the trips. Something bad always does. You're going to get a flat tire. Things are going to break down. But he says, my God still brought me through all of those things. And it's with confidence that he's kind of saying, hey, the same God who helped me is going to help you too. And that's really, really important for us because faith isn't something that we keep to ourselves. Faith is something that we're supposed to share with others. It's supposed to influence our lives. Yes, absolutely. It helps me to know that I can trust God in a little more later on. But somebody else has zero. Somebody else is looking to the hills and I'm screaming, right? Somebody else is looking to the hills and they're going, how am I going to get through this? And you're going to go, hey, let me tell you how I got through it. But that's not what we do. We keep our mouths shut or we handle it ourselves and we have zero testimony to tell the world around us. That is not what God is getting at here. Our faith is not something we keep to ourselves. It is something that we share with others. Once he has found peace for his soul, he has something to give to someone else. He had been cared for, and now he recognizes that there's a God who cares for you. He had been kept, and now he says there's a God who will keep you as well. That's why it matters so much that what we do in our own lives, what we do with our own souls, what our own life looks like lived after following after Jesus in prayer, in worship, in stillness, whatever it happens to be. Because when we do those things, it gives us a testimony. It gives something that we can tell to other people. It gives us words that carry life that we can convey to others. When we're overflowing, what we're overflowing with will come out when someone has an issue around us. If we're overflowing with the vial of the rest of the world, and they go, I just can't believe, you'll lean in and go, I can't believe it either. But when you're overflowing with this goodness and this presence of God, then that's what comes out. I can't believe, well, you know what? Let me tell you what I do believe in. I don't believe in that, but I believe in this. I believe in the God who loves me and the God who saves me and the God who delivers me through all of these things. It's an entirely different conversation, but it's not a conversation very many of us have. Right, I'll look up here. Not a conversation very many of us have. We get wrapped up in all the ridiculousness and the foolishness of everything else around us. We don't point to Jesus as often as we should because we don't live our lives pointed to Jesus like we should. When your heart is kept by God, you have something real to give to the people around you who are still looking up, who are wondering where their help is going to come from because everybody is worried about something. Everybody is looking for something. Where is my help going to come from? And there's only one place that they can really find the answers to that. And so what's going on from 3 to the rest of this verse here, every you that he talks about is a personal invitation. Every time we read this you from here on out in chapter 121 is a personal invitation. It is an extended hand. It is God breaking his hand out and saying, hey, I want you to hold on to this for yourself. This is for you. Grab my hand and let's go. That's what the psalmist is saying. That's what God is saying. This is your turn to hold on to this. This is your opportunity to listen to and kind of trust and believe in this. And so when he says he will not allow your foot to slip, he's saying, hey, you're not going to slip. I'm going to keep you going. It's the image of a traveler on a mountain trail. If you've ever hiked a trail, I'm not a big hiker, right? That's not really my thing. I do have hiking boots, but they look like they're brand new. But when you're walking on these trails, there's uneven ground, there's loose rocks, there's steep cliffs right on either side, like so I hear some of these things, right? But the psalmist says, hey, you have a sure-footed guide. You have one that's watching over you. When your footing does fail, when the stumble does happen, because they do, when the danger does come, he's not saying, I don't think he's saying that you're never going to fall. I don't think he's saying, hey, you're going to be elevated above all of this stuff and you're going to do your heels 3 times at a pier, right? I tried to do my heels. I don't know if you saw that, but that's what that was. I shouldn't have brought attention to it, right? But that's not what any of it is. You don't just show up there. He says, hey, as we're going through this stuff, you're going to fall, you're going to stumble, you're going to slip, you're going to twist your ankle, but you know what? Wherever you fall, it will never be beyond his reach. That's what he's saying. You can't fall so far that he can't get to you. So the one who watches over you doesn't just let your footing fail. It means that you'll never be farther than he can grab you. It'll never be like you're just out of reach, let me call someone else for help. That's not what God's going to do at any point in your life. So then Psalm 121, I think, connects us to the part really connects us for this series. The second part of that verse says, your protector will neither slumber nor sleep. And that's really good news for all of us because we lie awake at night. And what this verse tells us is we can go to sleep because he won't. So when your mind is racing at 2 a.m. with all of the what ifs, Psalm 121 here whispers back and it says, hey, you can rest. God's still awake. He's still watching. And I don't mean watching like the creepy, like, I watched you sleep last night, right? That's not what he's doing. He's kind of got first watch. He's kind of looking out for the camp. He's the one that said, I'm going to be awake so that you can go to sleep. You can rest easy because I'm going to keep an eye out for all the dangers that are around us. That's what he's saying. The God doesn't slumber. The God who doesn't sleep. When you're lying there trying to figure it all out, he's got it all covered. When you're worried about the thieves and the wolves, he's going to have them watching for the thieves and the wolves. The same God who never sleeps is still working. He is still guarding. He is still keeping his promise. So we can close our eyes and go to sleep. And God doesn't just take first watch. He doesn't say, hey, you know what? You sleep for the first little bit. In 4 hours, I want you to wake up and worry about it. I'm going to take a nap. That's not what he does. He takes first watch, and then second watch, and then third watch. And how many watches you need, he takes them all. He takes all of those watches. He is always awake, always aware of what's going on. So you can kind of just rest. So you can kind of just close your eyes and not worry about what's ahead of us. It doesn't mean life is easy. I don't ever want you to think that anything that I say is going to belittle or make you think that life is easy and it's all puppies and cupcakes and gluten-free cupcakes. There are difficulties. There are trials. What it absolutely means is that God is faithful in all of those things. That's what I want you to see. There is no temptation, there is no trial, there is no storm that is going to get past his attention. He is not going to turn around and go, I didn't even see that wolf. I didn't even see that guy sneak in the back in the dark with the dark clothes on and steal that. That's not at all what he's going to do. He is the sleepless guardian of his people. So when our minds start racing, when the ground beneath us, when everything else looks uncertain, we just rest. We just take a breath, and we go, the one who holds our steps never nods off. God is not a narcoleptic, right? In that it falls asleep. That's the right word, right? I should stick to my notes, but I think that's the right word, right? He's not nodding off. He's not going, I just need a little more caffeine for this last little bit. He's got it. You can rest. You can sleep. Because he has it. So then he moves on. He's got you, your path, and your future in his hand, verses 5. I know I said we're going to go to verse 8. I promise you we're going to get to verse 8. The rest of it moves a little faster. Verse 5 and 6. It says, the Lord is your keeper. It's underlined right there, so you know it's important. I'm going to bring it back later. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is the shade on your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the noon by night. And so that word that's underlined, keeper, is the Hebrew word shamar. You can say that one. That was an easy one. Shamar. Shamar, right? Shamar, close enough, right? What it means is to guard. It's to watch over. And this is actually the third time that this one word has been used in It's so far in the Psalms. We're at verse 5, third time it's been used. The first 2 times, it's translated as protector. If you go back to verses 3 and 4, it talks about your protector, Israel, the protector of Israel, right? It's the same word. It's shamar. It's the same word. It's just kind of translated differently. It's used once here. It's going to be used twice in verse 7, and then it's going to be used the last time in verse 8. If you're counting that, that's 6 times. 6 times in 8 verses. 6 times in 8 verses. So that tells us that it's important. Simple math. I got it. Right? That's 6. Yeah, y'all looking at me like it's not. 6 times in 8 verses. That you're hanging up on the wrong thing. 6 times 8 verses. That tells us it's really, really important. Not a math teacher. There's no chalkboard. Solve this equation, right? Solve this equation. If it's 6 times in 8 verses, it's important. Right? To go towards the answer, you have to solve any of it. 6 times in 8 verses, it's really, really important. And so what this is giving us, what the shamar is kind of telling us, it's the image of someone who never leaves their post. It's more than this, but this is what it is as well. It's someone who never leaves their post. It's someone who stands watch even when you can't see them. Even if you can't see them standing watch, they're doing it. You know that they're doing it. And so with the traveler psalmist, when he's right, what he wants his audience to know, what he wants the people that are around him, that he's talking to as they're marching forward, and that what he's writing down and telling to us years later, is that God is watching over you at all times. It is not just a physical protection that they were worried about, but as the chapter continues to unfold, we see that it's also this spiritual protection as well. It is a physical protection and a spiritual protection as well. If you've ever been caught outside in the blazing sun with no shade, right? You've been there somewhere at some point, right? There's just no shade. When we were on our sabbatical and we were at doing our Disney trip, which again was not restful, right? Because we did 4 parks in one day. That's not restful in any way, shape, or form. We were at Epcot in the hottest part of the day. I wish I should have brought the picture. Epcot, hottest part of the day, and there is 0 shade at Epcot. And it was miserable. It was just absolutely miserable. That was the shortest amount of time we were anywhere. We're like, we got to get out of here. Even the monorail with this very, very barely working air conditioning was a little bit of relief, right? That's what God is saying here. That's the image that he's putting there. If you've ever been outside in this blazing sun with no shade, it drains you. You're exhausted. You're irritated. At least probably I was. I think Melanie probably wasn't. But you're irritated in everything that's going around. And that's the picture here. And so what the psalmist is trying to paint, what he's trying to say is that what God is a shelter that you can duck under when life gets hot. It's what travelers so desperately wanted in the desert. A tree. Some sort of shelter. Some place where they could find rest. Some place where they could get relief from the scorching sun above them. Right, that's what he's saying. That's what this is. But it's more than that. Shade is a poetic way of describing God's protection and his covering. So when he says, the sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night, it's the psalmist was saying all the time. Doesn't make a difference what time of day it is. It doesn't make a difference what it is you're going through. God is your covering. Middle of the day, got it. Middle of the night, got it. 3 in the afternoon, not a problem. 2 in the morning, not a big deal. 10 at night, whatever, right? I could go on 24 times, but you get the sense of it. Whatever time you're at, when you're worrying, God is trying to say to you, I got it. All the time. I got it. You don't have to fret. You don't have to worry about the scorching heat. You don't have to worry about the cold light. Whatever it is, when it's too much or you're too scared, you're too worried, I'm your shelter. I'm your shelter in every season of life. Verses 7 and 8. It says, the Lord will guard you from all evil. He will preserve your soul. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. You see the ones that are underlined? That's the same word. You remember the word? Shamar. Excellent. Excellent. You all did pass today. Shamar. That's not going to get you to heaven or anything. You just learned a new word. It means nothing. But that's the same word. Guard, preserve, watch over. It's the same word. Shamar, 6 times, 8 verses, same word. And so here's the end of it. Verse 7 and 8, here's the end of it. And what began with a question, my eyes look to the hills, where does my help come from? It ends here with a promise. And this is a really, really, really big promise for us. The Lord will guard you from all evil. He will preserve your soul. The Lord will watch over your coming and your going, both now and forevermore. And this shamar is the heartbeat of their whole song. God protects you, he guards you, he keeps you. And this is not like a passive kind of keeping, like you have a file stored away in your drawer. Like I got tax season coming up, we got files in the drawer, we'll get them later on. I've never tripped over that. Today I'm going to do it. You got files filed away and you'll deal with them later on. That's not what this is. This is an active kind of keeping. This is, hey, I have it with me at all times and I know it's safe because I've got it with me. This is a personal care kind of keeping. This is the same God who made the heavens and the earth, who steadies your steps, who doesn't sleep, who shades you day and night, now promises to guard you completely, protecting not just your body, which everything has been up to for till now, but also your soul. Not just this, but what's inside, what's eternal, I'm also going to protect. And that matters because there is a lot of stuff that we spend our time trying to protect. Trying to protect our health, trying to protect our finances, trying to protect our families, trying to protect our futures. There is a lot of stuff that we spend time trying to protect. We spend a lot of energy and resources trying to protect something. So much so that we lose sleep over all of those things, trying to protect those things. But Jesus says the most important thing you can guard is your soul. So he's saying, hey, I'm going to guard it. I'm going to preserve your soul. I'm going to shamar your soul. I'm going to keep over it. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to protect it. Because God knows how fragile our souls can be and how important they are. In our souls is where worry takes root or doesn't, is where worry or worship takes root and comes out in our lives. In our soul is where fear or faith comes out. In our souls is where hope either lives or dies. And what we're facing in front of us. That's why he promises to keep it. He says, I'm going to protect you from the kind of evil that seeps in. I'm going to protect you from the outside stuff, and I'm going to protect you from the kind of evil that seeps in and then eats away at your life and eventually eats away at your eternity. See, God is not just guarding what happens to you, he's guarding what's happening in you. Because that's the more important thing. The body is a broken husk in a hull anyway. What's important is the part that lives for eternity. So that's what's really important that he keeps. So he's looked to the hills, giving them the assurances he can for everything that's going to come along their way, but he leaves them with this, verse 7 and 8. But let me tell you, your soul is way more important than any of this stuff. Way more important than any of this stuff. We worry about way too much and not about the one thing that makes a difference. And this is not about God controlling us. This is about him caring for us. He is forming us. He is shaping us. He is protecting the deepest parts of who we are. He is making sure that when life is crazy, because life is going to get crazy, there's going to be stuff that I want to worry about. He says, even though when all that stuff comes at you, you can stand secure. Your soul will be fine. That I will protect and look over as well. And then verse 8 wraps up this entire worship while you're walking experience with this final promise. The Lord will watch over your coming and your going. And your coming and your going is just another way of saying the same things we've already seen before, the day and the night. It's a way of saying all of life. They would sing this as they're going to Jerusalem, as they're coming back. As they're going to Jerusalem, where does my help come from? It comes from the Lord. Well, now I made it to Jerusalem. Now I got to go back. Where does my help come from? It still comes from the Lord. He's not just making sure you get to where you're going. He's making sure you get going to where you're going. Right? Okay. You're coming and you're going. It's not like I got to this one point and God says, well, 50% of the trip's mine. I got the first part, you do the rest. It's not what he's doing. Protecting your coming and your going. Every season, every step, your whole life. It's God's way of saying, I've got you covered all the time, no matter what's going on. I already told you day and night, so anytime you wake up, now I want you to know that anytime you're going somewhere, anytime you're coming back somewhere, like he's trying to leave zero doubt. If for us to ever go, God's not with me in this moment. He's trying to leave zero doubt to say that for us to be able to say that. So that we always know, hey, day and night doesn't make a difference. Come and go, it doesn't make a difference. He's always there. Cold heat, always there. That means when life is unpredictable, when you're walking into something new, when you're walking into something painful, he's watching. When you're standing on a mountain, when you're stuck in a valley, when the day is bright, when the night is dark and long, he's there. When you're spent, when you're full of energy, he's there. From your first breath to your last, and even beyond that into eternity, he still keeps you. That's what Psalm 121 is trying to give us. That's why we don't have to worry about stuff. And so the pilgrims who first sang this psalm knew what it meant to face uncertain roads. That's what Psalm 121 is. They faced uncertain roads and they knew how to do it. Their journey to Jerusalem wound through steep climbs and wild terrain and places where danger was possibly lurking around every corner. Their eyes scanned the horizon. They had both hope and fear. I hope for the best. I'm afraid for the worst. Just like we do. When worry creeps in and causes us to lie awake at night. when we look at everything in front of us and then we wonder what could possibly else go wrong. Yet the same things that God promises to them, he promises to us. All the things that drain us for worry, the things that he addresses, like a slipping foot and a scorching sun in the cold night. For us, it's stability and safety and future. All of those things, he says, God protects and he guards and he keeps. All the time, anytime, wherever, whenever. And then here's the last part that I want you to catch. Worship team, you can come up. So we go all the way through Psalm 121, all the 8 verses. And the psalm doesn't end with the traveler going, that's too much. I'm going to go back home where it's safe. That's not what he does. And it doesn't tell us that the road all of a sudden went flat and that all the lions and wolves ran away and all the thieves had a change of heart and they were handing out flowers as they were going by. It doesn't tell us any of that. The hill was still there. The journey was still in front of them. It was still dangerous. But what changed is what they were looking at. What changed is what they were worried about versus now they worshiped about it. Every step is steadied by the one who never sleeps. So you can go to sleep. You can push out the worry and rest because your God never does. Don't be stupid. Don't not do the things that you're supposed to do. But you can rest. You don't have to worry about it because your God absolutely will. Stand with me as we pray. I'll pray, as always. I don't need you to listen to me. That's not why I pray. It's not the important part. The important part is you have the conversation with God. Maybe something I say will trigger something in your mind. Maybe something I've already said is triggering in your mind. You go, God, I need to talk to you about this in my life. Then here's the opportunity for you to do that. I'll try not to holler so that it's quiet, and I don't want to disturb your prayer. Lord, we're just grateful. As always, Lord, for your love, your grace, your mercy, the way you work in our lives in mighty ways, the way that you are constantly taking care of us in the moments we recognize and realize, and then, Lord, in the moments that we don't. Lord, I fully believe it is not going to be until much later in life that we look back and we see all of the ways that you have been involved, all of the ways that you have shamar, that you have kept us, that you have protected us, that you have watched over us. But Lord, you are doing those things in this moment. Lord, you have proven yourself faithful before to us in the past in those things. And so, Lord, help us to move out of worry and instead have a posture and an attitude of worship. Because I think when that's what we do, then I think we'll find this rest in you like we didn't experience before. So, Lord, help us to lift our eyes above what it is that we're afraid of, and help us to fix our eyes on you. Lord, what's in front of us, the hill is daunting, it is looming, it is dangerous. There are a lot of things that we could look away from, but Lord, help us to shift just a little higher and see you beyond it, who's bigger than that thing. I may still have to climb the hill, but I won't climb it alone. I'll climb it with someone who's sure-footed and won't let me fall farther than he can reach me. Lord, teach me to rest, knowing that I can rest because you never do. There will be a sleepless night this week, Lord, and I will be tempted to worry about something that strikes me brand new. Lord, help me to just lean back into you and say, God, my worrying will not fix it tonight. There is nothing I can do tonight. So, Lord, I'm going to let you stand guard and watch over it. I'm going to let you protect me. Lord, I'm going to let you control the things that you can and the things that I can't. Lord, I can't predict outcomes. I can't tell you this is how it's going to happen. I can't work it out to come out the way I want it to. But Lord, you can work it out for my good. That's a really tough place to be. That's maybe a difficult prayer to pray. To go, not my will, but yours be done. But there might not be a more Christ-like prayer than that one. So, Lord, guard my heart. Shamar my soul. Protect it. Watch over it. Keep it as I learn to rest in your presence. So what have you, don't tell me now, don't shout out, I don't know. What have you been worried about? Like, what are the what ifs that have played through your mind in the middle of the night at 2 a.m? Where have you scanned the horizon and been, hey, this is coming at me and it's going to be bigger than I know what to do with? Because we all have those things. Whether it's Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, one night this week you're going to have it. Or maybe this week will be great. But it's coming. The sleepless night because of that worry, because of that what if. And I would really challenge you, in those moments, when that hits you, don't play through the what ifs. Don't give in to the worry. Don't even get concerned and start to solve it. Why don't you just open up Psalm 121 and read that instead? And I would say don't even read it from your phone, because then it's going to distract you. You're going to move over to social media and it's not going to help at all. So grab a Bible. If you don't have one, take the one that's in front of you. We don't care. It's okay. If you steal a Bible, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to report you. You can have it. But I would encourage you, whatever time that is, open up Psalm 121 and realize that you're not the first person to face what's causing you inner turmoil. For thousands and thousands of years, people have gotten through it by looking to the one, the maker of heaven and earth. So do that instead of worrying over whatever's going on. So have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday, on site, online, 10 a.m.